Hey, Amity seniors, it's Mr. Clark. I'm one of the two yearbook advisors, along with Mrs. Hulse, and I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about senior yearbook quotes. So, senior quotes are something of a tradition here at Amity, so it's probably a term you've heard before. You may even have seen some senior quotes in previous yearbooks. Since you're now seniors, the time has come for you to choose your own senior quotes. But before you do that, we want to make sure that you fully understand what a senior quote actually is. That is its purpose. And we also want to make sure that you know how to choose the right one. So it might seem pretty obvious and basic, but before we can really talk about senior quotes, we need to make sure we understand what a quote actually is. So I've pulled up the handy dandy Merriam-Webster dictionary definition here. But essentially, to quote someone or something is to repeat or copy the language of a person, a speech, a text. Whether that's just a short phrase, it's a full sentence or two, maybe even it's a longer passage. But when you use a quote, you're using the words of another. So in other words, by definition, you can't quote yourself in most cases. And your senior yearbook quote is one of those cases. So that means whatever quote you choose should come from an identifiable and a reliable source. And you must attribute, in other words, cite or give credit to that source. This is called attribution, and it is a requirement. So now that we have that background understanding, we return to our initial question. What is a senior quote? So senior quotes are quotes, again, as we just said, language from another person or source, selected by members of the senior class for the purpose of leaving behind a message or a sentiment when they graduate. Now, there are lots of different approaches you can take as you make this decision. Your quote can be funny, it can be serious, it could be anything in between. You can offer words of wisdom. You can choose a quote that you think reflects your personality, your character, your values. It's really up to you. But whatever approach you decide to take, you should choose your quote carefully because it will serve as a record of who you are for years to come. And along with your senior portrait, it's going to help other people remember who you are after graduation. In some cases, in the future, it might even be someone's first impression of you. So you want to be sure that it is a good one and that your quote reflects positively upon you. So to help ensure that it does, and also that it reflects positively upon the Amity community, your quote must meet the following standards. All quotes must consist of 140 characters, including spaces, or fewer. You may not include emojis, acronyms, initialisms, abbreviations, slang, or other creative spellings in your quote. Your quote may not include profanity, offensive, or inappropriate language, references to illegal substances or activities, or any kind of language that denigrates other people, really for any reason, or any derogatory comments about the school, or anyone in the school community. You may not use your quote as a shout out to or about other students or about faculty or staff. You may not quote other students, faculty, or staff in the yearbook. You also may not use your quote as an opportunity for a personal or business advertisement, including advertising your own social media handle. And finally, you must attribute your quote to an identifiable and reliable source. And we've got some examples here. Please note that unknown and anonymous aren't actually sources. Those are just terms that indicate the absence of a source. We are looking for a particular source here. So really quickly, here are a couple examples and explanations of appropriate and inappropriate senior quotes. So here's a really good one. This one consists of fewer than 140 characters. It is attributed to an identifiable and reliable source. It exhibits correct spelling, capitalization, grammar, and punctuation, and it's positive and inspirational. So really, this is all thumbs up here. Another really good one, and for many of the same reasons as the previous one. So these are the kinds of things that we are looking to see. Some examples of quotes that don't work. This one here, for instance, there's no source here. This phrase is not positive. It actually has a pretty negative connotation, and it's not likely to reflect well upon either the student who attempts to submit it or the school as a whole. Similar to the previous one, this one is unacceptable. Again, you may not use your quote as a personal or a business advertisement. This person is advertising their social media handle. It's not something you can do in your senior quote. We are not permitting abbreviations. And of course, you may not quote yourself, as I said earlier. This quote is unacceptable for several of the same reasons as the previous one. And it's also an example of a quote that is really not a thoughtful reflection on the student's character or personality or really anything. So it's kind of a waste. So you know the expectations and the requirements, you know the standards for your quote, you know the policy that is in place. So, ready to choose your senior quote? What now? The form will go live tomorrow. You have a clear deadline, so please be sure to meet that deadline and note that late submissions will not be accepted. You can find the form by visiting your class Google Classroom or by visiting the yearbook website, which is amityembers.com. When you get there, you will notice that there is an option in the upper navigation menu for seniors. So you'll just hover over that. And then one of the options that you'll see is the senior quote submission form. So you'll go ahead and click on that. The form is pretty simple. You'll give us your name, you'll give us your first choice of a senior quote, along with the appropriate attribution. And then if you'd like, you can give us a second choice as well. We will review your first choice. If for some reason your first choice is deemed to be in violation of any of the standards I just reviewed a moment ago, we'll move on to your second choice. If your second choice is also in violation of the standards, then you will not have a yearbook quote in the yearbook. So please, again, make sure that you're choosing carefully. Make sure that you're submitting on time. We will not be accepting late submissions. This is very important because we also have deadlines to meet as a yearbook staff, and we just won't be able to accommodate you. So that's it. You should be good to go. If you have any questions, you can write to me and Mrs. Hulse at embers@amityschools.org.